I think I did it. Max, are you guys ready to start? All right. Hey, y'all. I just want to thank y'all for coming. I know it's a little chilly outside. The weather's a little gloomy, but this is really important to me to have. I think dialogue is one of the most important things for us to have as within SGA and with our constituents. And so I just want to thank you guys all for being here. I think it's one of the most insane things that it's almost been a year since I made one of the biggest promises of my life. So before I ran for SGA president, it became evident to me that not every student feels the same way toward tech that I do. And that became the foundation of my commitment to our student body. I realized that if SGA could better the experience of just one student, then we were doing something right. That principle became my goal for SGA this year. So our theme for the year has been bettering the experiences of all students, no matter the mandate, no matter the condition, or no matter the circumstance. This is not only SGA's goal, but it's our duty to ensure that every student feels safe, supported, and comfortable on our campus. I stress to the members of SGA that we need to strive toward this culture, and to strive for this culture, we must do more than we have to, and we must be proactive instead of reactive. So normally this event functions as one where the SGA president chooses a topic and they talk about it for a while and they talk about the climate of the university and things like that. I wanted to use it as an opportunity to tell you what we have been doing, and that way you can give feedback and on ways we can better support you. So I ran my campaign on several platforms: transparency, communication, accessibility, mental health, relationships, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. So SGA is more transparent than it has ever been, and I give most of this credit to my Vice President Gage for his diligence in this area. Our meetings are live streamed on YouTube. This event's live streamed right now, and our account serves as an archive where all of our past meetings are public to view at any time. Our legislation, everything SGA that you can think of, can be found on our website. So big shout out to our technology department down here for their efforts towards our website. Y'all should really check it out, sga.latech.edu. We also use our website as what I believe to be one of the most effective means of communications with students that SGA has ever had before. On our website, students have the opportunity to anonymously submit feedback through our Bulldog Ask column, and every member of SGA's contact info is listed on our website, which gives students direct access to each of their representatives. We also publish a community service newsletter each month, which gives students a list of service opportunities that they can participate in throughout the community and campus. We also have been sending out quarterly polls to the student body to compile opinions and feedback to adjust areas that the student body sees a need for. So Dr. Geis himself made accessibility a priority this summer, updating sidewalks and parking lots to meet ADA requirements, thanks to the work of a student group with one of our senators. Thanks to our public relations team, all of our SGA social media accounts utilize alternative text to make our social media more accessible to users who may experience visual impairments or things like that. One of my next steps is to look at building a relationship with the Testing Services and Disabilities Center on campus to kind of make that those resources more known to our students, but also I think that we need to have a hand in that as well. And in the spring, one of the things I'm most excited about in the accessibility area is we're going to launch our Wipeout Hunger initiative in partnership with Airmark, where we will combat food insecurity by hosting tech table swipe drives, where students with meal plans can donate their excess CAF swipes to a pool that students will have the opportunity to then apply for. Payson, my administrative coordinator, has been working really diligently on this all year, and I'm really excited for that to launch in the spring. So our senators prioritized mental health last year and this year by providing funding for new iPads for the Counseling Center. With the drastic increased utilization of the Counseling Center, we are still advocating for more resources for mental health through the Counseling Center right now. So I think one of the most valuable things that we've done as SGA so far this year is to create meaningful relationships with organizations that did not feel heard or welcomed before. So one of my goals for this year is to take that even further and visit more organization meetings. I've already started compiling a list of when all those organizations meet through our student org group meet, but I haven't really gotten the best response. So if y'all have any ideas on how to do that, y'all let me know. In regard to diversity, equity, and inclusion, we disbanded our DEI department within SGA. We also had mandatory diversity trainings for each member of SGA, which I think is important to set the precedence for DEI to be a priority for our organization and for our members to learn. Senators also passed a bill to help furnish some of the things in the new LGBTQ plus resource center. I had the privilege of attending the ribbon cutting for this new facility, and I'm excited to see the programming that our newly hired and first ever LGBTQ+ coordinator does. We also have followed through on a resolution from last year that aimed to ensure more beneficial acclimation, inclusion, and success initiatives for international students. We began with orientation, where each quarter we now serve breakfast and kind of socialize with all the international students, and now the orientation student leaders are involved quarterly as well. We also have expanded our partnerships with smaller organizations, for example, our Diwali event in partnership with ISA and AIS. We are still advocating for more resources to be allocated to underserved students, and we will continue to do that as well. So my favorite thing as student body president is getting to talk to students, hear their ideas, and finding the means to make them possibilities. In this position, I have access to people and resources that allow me an easier path to begin campus initiatives. That is a platform that I have strived and will continue to strive to never take for granted. So sustainability is not something that I campaigned on being a priority for my administration. However, it was something so many students saw a need for. Our partnership with Replenish and PepsiCo has not only allowed us to enact change on our campus, but in our community. We have placed recycling bins all over campus and are still phasing out our expansion. We want this initiative to be permanent. With the help of our Department of Environmental Action, we have accomplished something that has been sought after and attempted for a decade. We got to also experience the ribbon cutting of the career closet, and which we gave funding to make possible. We created the Kennel Student Section Instagram, and worked with athletics to increase engagement across our campus through various giveaways and things like that. But we also created an Instagram for our Senate and have increased our social media footprint, as Kelly Cole would say, tremendously since last year. We have at least one community service event held each month, and we hosted our first ever Professors in the Plaza event to bridge the gap between our faculty and students. We also revamped our Who's Who selection process, and we're in the process of revamping our homecoming court selection process as well. And there's so much more to come. Political Action Week, International Women's Week, Earth Week, elections, big event, and more. And I want you guys to be a part of that more. So what ideas, questions, concerns, suggestions do you guys have for me and SGA? Please be brutally honest. So my exec team and I, Michael, Gage, and Elizabeth, are present today. We're going to kind of start a dialogue with y'all where you guys can ask questions. And we also, since I know a lot of people weren't going to be able to attend in person, Max created a link for people to be able to submit questions before the little shindig. So, Max, I'm going to let Max work his way down here. I'm going to cough real quick. But yeah. So, do you want to start with the questions online? Do you all have any questions, or do y'all want to think for a minute while we answer the online questions? Okay, good deal. You all can think for a minute.
While we get transition, we'll have a round of applause from that Chris.
I fixed it.
No, I was going to switch this. Put this, click back to. Here, I got it. Let me do it quick. I can switch this over to the question. There you go.
Thank you.
So, Kiara, one of the first questions from the anonymous question poll is, what is the largest project that you, I'm assuming SGA as a whole, would want to tackle at Tech if you had an unlimited budget and time?
There's a lot of answers to that. Let me think for a second. If we had an unlimited budget and we could do anything, what would be the biggest thing that we could do? I think that we can all answer this differently if y'all all want to kind of take a jab at it. So I'm going to go first, but I think one of the biggest areas, so one of the things that we do every decade as a university is we create a strategic framework plan. So those are areas that reach all across campus. All the important people, all the people they oversee, they make a strategic plan for their department, for their unit. So I got to be a part of that this year as the student kind of representative over that. And so one of the things that everybody is kind of focusing on is the recruitment and the retention of minority students at Louisiana Tech University. So that is an area that we are not as competitive as other institutions in our area and in our system. And I think that if I could have an unlimited budget, I would allocate scholarships, because that is one of the areas that, to underserved students, I would think that is so needed, because a lot of the other institutions offer that, and we could offer the education and the tech experience to those students as well if we could provide scholarship and funding for them that were in addition to the grants that they receive from the state. And I think that is an area that we'll be working towards in the next 10 years. But if we could do it right now, if I had an unlimited resources budget, that'd be kind of cool too. Gagey, you want to go?
Yeah, so one thing that, although it's a great question, I'm sure everybody in the room, like she said, could answer differently about things reported. So like, as an aviation major, the first thing would be more planes. Or as a engineering major, it may be a new IESP, right? Another whole level.
Woo!
It could go on and on. COE could have their ideas. So one thing that's been awesome working so close with so many senators has been that there are so many things that are so crucial and so important to this specific sect of campus. And so one thing that we focus on is, although we don't have an unlimited budget, there is a substantial amount of money that SGA has in its budget. And we have to work to hear from all over campus, including forums like this, so that we can make those good decisions as to what is the priority, where do we put this stuff. So we could go on and on all day about big picture parking lots and big, all these other things. But I think one thing we've done really good this year is hearing people out and trying to spend money wisely, so that it's not just like, oh, we have this great thing that 4 people are going to use. So that's my response to that question. But yeah, more planes.
More planes. I like that.
I know one thing for me that I've heard a lot of people voice back and forth is just, we all know that, College of Business, College of Engineering, they have these awesome, incredible buildings that are beautiful and up to date in many, many ways. But we do have a lot of parts of campus, like College of Financial Sciences and College of Liberal Arts, that don't exactly have those same resources. And if I had the limited budget and time, I would do everything in my power to make sure that we could update those buildings, bring everything honestly up to code, because I know that we do have a lot of parts of campus that probably don't really do that. And that is something that they're working on day by day, but even bringing in to like Wiley Tower and our library, things like that, just those types of places really could use some touch-ups, and that is something that we can't exactly do in a year, but I would love to see that happen.
I would heavily do the facility. I go to Park Taylor 3 days a week and throughout. Another thing I think is a good unique about university, we're a tier 1 research institute. We've done a lot of research. And some of the equipment that's needed for research is very expensive. So, for example, in my lab, this girl's been working on a project for 4 years and requires a machine called an XRF. The bulb broke in the XRF. It's $20,000 to fix the bulb. We don't have money to fix the bulb. So helping out professors and students that are working on projects that are meaningful. Some of these students need these projects to be finished in graduate, because in graduate school have great pieces. So I think in addition to facilities, I think really helping out our research professors and that faculty to excel in their areas, because some of their equipment is very expensive.
Ditto.
So the next question. SGA has been criticized regarding how things were handled this year. How are you going to change that? You can always just say words, but that doesn't do any justice, since actions speak louder than words.
So that's a very vague question. So the way we handled things, I guess this would be a good opportunity for me to just kind of explain a little bit about what my job is like. I work 20 hours a week in the office. Michael can work up to 20 hours a week. Payson can work up to 20 hours a week. Ty and Elizabeth work 12, and Gage works 14. We handle a lot of things on that daily basis. So I think one of the sides of my job that a lot of people don't really know is I do run this organization, and I am the face of the student body at all times. But with representing the student body at all times, there's also another side of my job. So I sit on every single committee that this university has. And there's a committee for everything. There's a traffic committee, parking committee, every committee. If there's something that happens logistically on this campus, I sit on that too. So there's just so many things that can get handled that need to be handled every single day, and that's why we're a team, and our whole entire SGA works to handle those things every single day. I think that obviously we've been criticized for things because we make mistakes, because the first word of this organization is student, and one of the whole purposes of our organization is so students can learn how to support each other. And I think there is so much to be said about student to student and peer to peer communication and contact. And the best part about it is that students get to learn from each other, because when you're in college, that's the whole point. You're not an adult, you're not fully an adult yet. You're not supposed to know everything. I don't think there's a person in this room that could say they know everything. And if there was something that SGA handled that we were scrutinized for on such a large scale, then I would take full responsibility for that as the president, because it's my job to support our members and to support my exec team. I'm not sure if there was an instance that is being referred to specifically here, because scrutiny, we'd get that. I'd know about that, right? But overall, that would be my response to that question, is just all we can do is learn and do better next time. And one of the biggest issues with this role and with our SGA is the turnover rate is 1 year. So you do something 1 year, let's say big event, that's a big scale event that everybody knows about. You do it 1 year, you make one mistake, you have to teach the next person that. You don't get to redo it yourself. So that is just kind of, I guess, one of the main takeaways that I would say people forget sometimes, is that there's a big learning curve being a student leader. And when there's a learning curve, you don't really have a lot of time in 1 year to learn everything. So you do mess up. And I think that's okay that we mess up, but all we can do is try to be better. You don't have to answer that.
With the current state of our buildings, how will you advocate for change, especially towards the old buildings that desperately need to be repaired?
So like I was saying earlier, so I sit on every committee ever. One of the committees that I sit on is the Advisory Planning Council. And so that is basically Dr. Geis's cabinet. So that's all the vice presidents, all the deans, all the academic deans, the provost, the student senate the faculty senate president, and some department heads, things like that, of the big overarching umbrellas. They all sit in there. So one of the things that Dr. Geis mentioned to us in our past APC meeting was that there in the very, very near future, there's going to be funding allocated towards Carson Taylor and GTM's renovation. And not only is that something that's so drastically needed, it's long overdue, and they recognize that. And so I think that's really important to keep in mind, that as students, we don't always know what's going on. Not every student gets to sit in meetings like that, but they are actively working towards that now. Are those the only two buildings that need attention on our campus? Absolutely not. But it's my job and those academic deans' job to be a constant reminder, a bug in somebody's ear, to be annoying, to say, oh, the ceiling tile just fell on me, things like that. Not ceiling tiles never fallen on me, on the record. But
I'd say from the Senate side, so we have a campus improvement committee within the Student Senate. And a bunch of senators from all over campus serve on that. And one of the things that they're really starting to look at and take care of is we actually went and toured before meeting this week, so this Tuesday. We went and got a tour from one of our members of the Student Senate of South Campus, which, as we saw, is a place in need of lots of renovations, lots of work, ultimately lots of money. But just as Kiara advocates for change in facilities and things like that, updates, we have a whole team of senators who are getting ready to write a bill where they can, a resolution where they can, to continue advocating for those upgrades. And then after that is passed, it becomes Kiara and I's responsibility to help push that further, as it is now a statement on the student body's behalf, just like with every piece of legislation. So I can tell you that specifically in the Student Senate, it's a huge concern as far as upgrading our buildings.
Referring to one of the questions from last year's roundtable, what actions have been taken in regards to sexual assault victims and the resources that are offered to them on campus? How has SGA affected this?
So at the beginning of the year, I met with Dr. Owen, who is the director of the counseling center, if you guys aren't familiar. And because in my campaign, it really stood out to me when I was contacting all these people that I couldn't really find a lot of the resources, education, or pretty much anything that related to sexual assault prevention or things like that. And when I met with Dr. Owen, she explained to me the things that they do, but a lot of that is confidential based on each case's need. But on the prevention side, it's just funding. They have a lack of funding in the counseling center. We haven't done anything yet. One of the things that Max and I talked about at the beginning of the year was that in spring, we want to have a campus safety week, and that can look however he wants it to look. And one of the things that I suggested that we incorporate to that is into campus safety week is sexual assault prevention and sexual assault awareness on our campus. So we haven't done anything yet. However, during the summer, some students in SGA got to sit on a panel where we hired our new Title IX coordinator. She's awesome. She rocks. And so Ms. Mortissa is our new Title IX coordinator. She's full-time. It's a new position that Dr. Geis created. And she is looking to create a lot more programming working with the students. And so that will be a direct connection for us to be able to do programming like that. And it's just she's so new to her position that I don't think she's gotten to those steps yet. But I hope that the next president or next quarter, we can definitely work side by side with her to create initiatives like that, because as a student, as a woman, I'm very passionate about that. And so it's coming. Yeah.
So just to preface this statement, the question is written out here. I'm just reading whatever is on.
I got you. I can do it. I can handle it.
I've been to the back desk a few times to grab a stand. That's such a blessing.
Thank
I
you.
do notice that there's always a lot of people there, and from the looks of it, they're not even in SGA from the way they act. Is this space open for everyone if we want to mess around?
So the back desk, the back of Tolliver is our student activities area. It's our offices, SGA's office, so it's my office and then my exec team's office, and everybody on SGA works in there. It's Wes Cavan, the director of student activities office, Nick Parks' office, he does a lot of things, Dalton Tackett, Union Board President's office, and then the big UB office that you can see through it because it's all glass. The area that I just spoke about makes it L. Inside that L, there's this big kind of hook of a desk. That is for our student activities workers. So they register student orgs, they update their rosters, they help Wes and Nick out wherever they need. Now, those seats behind those desks are only supposed to be for them, not even really members of SGA. It's not really a place to hang out. Now, the other side of that desk is Tolliver, the public student center of our campus. So if anybody wants to like chill out there, eat a chicken sandwich, grab a Union Board application, scan the QR code, get a Scantron, they're more than welcome to do that. And if they want to do a cartwheel or, do a little jig, they can do that too. It's not really up to me or any of us to corral what happens outside of that desk area. Now, if there's SGA members that act any type of way, they know in 5 seconds that Gage, Ty, Elizabeth, or I will go kick them because I don't like to be annoyed. And also, Michael is out there a lot of the times with my sister, and those people are very vocal. So I do think that if there was any disruption or misbehavior, that would be dealt with. But it's something that we could definitely work on, for sure.
I'm back there a lot. Sometimes we do just have fun. Sometimes me and the campus workers will like we just did much work and sit there and toss a football in the back hallway for a second. We will do that. We're high students. But a lot of work does get done back there. I'm almost always on my laptop working on something. So the back desk is a place for us to work, but we're students. We do mess around sometimes. So I hope that thing that we did. Usually it's all good fun.
Yeah, I hope that if you go to the back desk, you see SGA people tossing around football. It just kind of reiterates the fact that these are students too. Everybody on SGA is just trying to get their degree like you. They're just involved in this other thing and would love to talk to you about it. And I hope that maybe the football kind of humanizes SGA a little bit, because I think one of the main things, I'm going to spin this a little bit. One of the main things that we get criticized for is SGA thinking that we're above everybody, SGA being a clique, SGA being administration, which is absolutely the furthest thing from the truth. We fight over what music we're going to play before meeting. Now, meeting is very serious, Gage, don't get me wrong. And we do advocate for the student body every single day, that we are together and that we meet. But we also are college students, and we're 18 to 22 years old. And all we want to do is advocate for our peers. And that doesn't mean that we're better than them. It just means that we just took a step to try something new. And anybody else can do that too. So the back desk teaches you that. And good job, Michael, for throwing the football.
I actually sent that response in about Michael and football.
Every time I pass by, I'm assuming the desk officer.
Oh.
There's always people there. Is that the officer?
In short, yes. I'm just kidding. So no, so our treasurer and our secretary are good friends with a lot of the boys that are in TEAC. So they a lot of times eat lunch together. They come to the office, and a lot of my directors, not a lot, one of my directors is a TEAC, and he is their president. So if they bring a few extra with them, then that would probably be why. But no, it is not their office. And I don't see a herd of TEACs just running to my office all the time, but I'll keep an eye out.
We also have one of our graduate senators who's with us, Senator Black. We're very hard. Give a round of applause. Senator Black. He is a TEAC, and one of our freshman senators is a TEAC. I'm not a TEAC, despite popular belief.
We support the TEACs. We support every student organization.
Yeah, we do have a good bit of TEACs, but they're usually back there doing things related to the Student Government Association. So, anyways.
Thank you, Gage.
Brothers, I got you.
Also, if there's any questions.
Please ask questions. It's off, so.
I had called and looked back at y'all and just waiting for one of y'all to ask a question, so, yeah. Back to, the form. Where are tie increasing tonight, and why is there such a lack of exec participation with no repercussions?
Ty and Payson aren't here, so just like everybody else, they only have to attend 2 SGA events. I'm not gonna attend to. Payson has work tonight, actually. I don't know where Ty is. But there isn't necessarily a lack of exec participation on a daily basis. On a weekly basis, it's not a habit of a thing. So Ty specifically, Payson can only work so many hours. Ty does more work, I would say, than anybody on our exec team at all. Our Senate knows how hard Ty works and how diligent he has to be for SGA to run. He also works more closely with Wes. This quarter has been a little bit different for our entire exec team because I'm doing an internship this quarter, and so is Ty. Because we are students. And so one of the things that Ty has been doing is when he got his internship, he actually got hired on. So he's been working not so much flexible hours. And that's why his office hours have changed, which he mentioned in meeting last week, but like I said, Payson has work tonight. And Michael and Payson are members of exec, but they're not elected members of exec. So there's a little bit different leeway. But if this was asked by a member of SGA, you have 24-hour access to our exec team. So if you ever have any concerns, you can always come to the office. You guys know when our office hours are. They're posted on the website if you don't.
So, as someone, as Gabe said, I'm a graduate student, so I've been here a long time. And I've seen what SGA does personally. If someone like a freshman or someone even touring campus were to come back there and ask what SGA has done for tech students in the past, what would you say?
So I think, I'm sorry. Sorry. So SGA gets explained on tours in a very watered down way. So Lamson Tolliver, Red Tables, TLC, right? My favorite thing to do, or last quarter when I was in my office during tour hours, I would always say that it's our job to communicate the needs, wants, and concerns of students to administration. And the cool thing about tech, the unique thing about Louisiana Tech SGA is that our administration actually cares what we have to say, and they don't just discredit it. And so I always spin that when I do talk to them to say that our administration does care about us, and our institution is not just this fluffy duffy family that you hear on every campus tour, but it's actually like a for real thing, and we can back it up, because if the students want something, and it's normally, if possible, addressed at some point.
And I would say too, one of the things that, talking about that channel communication, we always say that channel communication, and there are formal things that come up from the Senate and form of resolution that goes into different meetings. But as far as the exec, if someone approaches one of us, most of us have, personal contact information of vice presidents and higher ups, because we work with them closely on different issues. So 9 times out of 10, if you approach one of us with a concern, within the day we get it to Kiara has weekly meetings with Vice President Nikki Crawford. So if we hear something, word on the street, if we hear a concern, we immediately are taking that up the chain. And 9 times out of 10 issues that have popped up are usually taken care of pretty quickly or addressed, or that starts a conversation. I'd say that's one of the biggest things that SGA does on a daily basis. I mean, we do that pretty frequently. So.
Is there any insight to the parking issue on campus?
So we don't have a parking issue on campus. We have a lazy problem on campus, and that is, everybody in this room is going to get mad at me, but that's just period poo how it is. So I will say one of the things that is happening this summer is the building of Tech Point 2. And so that is going to take up some of our parking right across the street from ISB. And that might create a little bit of a parking problem on that side of campus. One of the reasons we have a parking problem is because on-campus students act like commuter students and drive to class. So that is gross. Don't do that. If you're an on-campus student, don't do that. But in the near future, I say the near future, in the next probably 5-10 years, there is going to be an autonomous vehicle implemented on campus, and that is going to, is everybody familiar with what an autonomous vehicle is? It's going to basically be like a bus type of deal. Shuttle, that's a good word. That will extend all across campus and drop off, pick up at class times. So that will extend the new parking lot where the softball field used to be. Everybody following me? That'll extend from there all the way to ISB, come back around. Make sense? Okay. If you have any more questions about that, you can come talk to me. I'm not the most familiar with the exact details of it, but.
Santa Fe said this new one time. You'll never hit a parking garage until the walking is more than 15 minutes in front of campus. So if you walk corner on campus, it's 15 minutes. There's a parking lot within 10 minutes of your building. Not much is going to change until that's 10, 15 minutes.
That's true.
What are you going to do as president to be more transparent to the student body what do you do in your position and the meetings you go to? I guess more detail, since I know you talked about that.
Normally if I go to a meeting, I always talk about it in my president's report in our meeting, which is live streamed every single week on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and you can go watch it. Some of the meetings I attend, the information is not relevant to the everyday student body because it's just, I'm just in the room that if they ever need a student perspective, they ask. I'm trying to think of an example of what one would be. Basically, like if everybody knows how behavior standards work. So if you get in trouble, there's behavior standards and there's some student representation on that. I basically act as that student representation on all those committees. It's not necessarily a means of being transparent. It's just necessarily a means of an information overload that wouldn't be beneficial to the student body as a whole. And that's up to my discretion. But I do normally share, even if it is kind of information overload, every week on Tuesday at 6 on the live stream in my report.
Yeah, I'll talk on that too. So this kind of goes back to kind of a bigger issue as far as the whole transparency conversation goes. I would say, and I know this relates specifically to the president's role in the question how it's posed, we're the most transparent we have ever been. I don't know how much more transparent we could be unless I shared on the website my personal calendar, itinerary, and cell phone password. We're pretty down to the core. You can find out anything you want about SGA on the website. You can come schedule a meeting with us and find out if there's something out there. You can watch live stream. You can see the minutes as soon as they are approved by the Student Senate. You can see Student Senate committees. So we're extremely transparent this year, and I really don't know what else we can do. The biggest thing is regarding Kiara's meetings, and even my meetings. I got out of a behavioral standards meeting right before we came to this. There's a lot of stuff that wouldn't necessarily pertain we don't discuss, but if someone ever did have a question and they were super bothered because they didn't know what Kiara and I do on a daily basis, our information is published in such a way that you can obtain it, find out.
My cell phone number.
Yeah, email us. If someone sent me an email, I would just take a screenshot of my calendar and tell you everything that I do in a week. So regarding transparency, we're pretty transparent as it gets. So that's just kind of an open statement. If there is something specific, you're like, what the heck? What do we spend money on? Well, we can set you up with Ty and y'all can go through all the finances. So if there is a specific part of SGA you're confused about or wondering about, there is some type of way you can find out via our website, going to the office, that crazy back desk we were talking about earlier. Tune in on the live stream, ask questions there. Anyways.
Yeah, and backtracking, because if that's in reference to my weekly meetings with Dr. Crawford, that's more of a me telling him what we're doing, so we can all stay on the same page, and basically me asking for support. If a bill is written, I tell him about it, and I ask him for a resolution specifically is written, I ask him to make sure that it doesn't just go to somebody's desk. I explain to him the importance, what the senators talked about, and then he goes from that. So basically my meetings with Dr. Crawford and a lot of my meetings are just furthering things that the students already know about because it was brought up by SGA already. Y'all don't have any questions? Okay.
Other than fund matching, how do y'all plan on empowering other clubs on campus in a way that they can provide for themselves rather than depending on SGA?
So our matching funds request is not the only what would be called access to resources that organizations can have. You can all of them, this is something that in the spring, because the winter quarter one is already closed, that I really want to publicize more. We have a student organization fund that is through student activities, not through SGA. That gets confused a lot, that you can apply for. Organizations can apply for every quarter and I think get up to $2,000. And all you do is apply for it, and 9 times out of 10, I'd say that's might be a stretch. 7 times out of 10, you get it without any questions asked. So that is a way that they don't have to rely on SGA. One of the things that I'm really passionate about and that Dr. Crawford and I have been talking about is just kind of advocating for funding for those organizations that the student org fund causes red tape for. By red tape, I mean, let's say BSU wants to go to a conference and they apply to the student org fund for their registration fees. The org fund cannot cover lodging, food, travel, anything like that. And so looking into avenues that could benefit that aspect of helping organizations. If that answers the question.
I'll speak on that too. So before I did this, I was the president of about a 20-member flight team. Yeah, big stuff, right? But that flight team's got national awards, so anyways.
I'm just kidding.
So coming from coming from a small org before I came to this, I definitely see that side of the coin. Because we would have to imagine raising money to take you and your friends and your club to a conference. Now imagine having to pay for the gas for a couple planes to go to. Yeah, it got expensive quick, especially when these aren't close locations. So I definitely see that side of the coin. But tech has a lot of opportunities. Tech Giving Day, they came to us and said, hey guys, you want to make a website? You go on there, put a little video up and everything, and alumni would go and donate. Usually people that are browsing the website, they don't really know about your work, can go look at it, read it, and donate. We got lots of money from that. And then the student org fund, that was another way of funding that we got some money from. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities outside of just coming to SGA. We never came to SGA once because the financials were hard to get all together, and that was only my job. Yeah. But there's a lot of opportunities for orgs to get money outside of SGA. And Mr. Ty Hogg, who made sure to clarify that he's at work tonight.
I didn't
He's
know.
at work. Let me know that you can talk to him and he can set you up in the right direction as well, too, on that.
I also want to say that, not really as much money, but resources wise, our technology department, for example, had a meeting a couple weeks ago that was specifically meant for organizations other than SGA to go over there. They were going to help everyone set up websites and figure all that kind of stuff out. And like, they really are doing everything they can to try and make sure that all organizations, everybody in the student body, has their representation, has their resources.
I want to clarify, that meeting did not happen.
Oh, yes, it did happen.
It got delayed because
Yes.
IT is
I'm sorry
hitting
about that.
some roadblocks, but
You're right, sorry.
we are very excited about that.
We're working
Yes.
on things like that.
But yeah,
That's what
so we have all kinds of resources that we're working on sharing with everyone else so that everyone else can be as successful as possibly, as possible.
And I'll say this, a lot of times we had to come back and they were like, I don't know how to read the Constitution. I love writing this. If you're trying to start an organization and you need help with
Shut
writing constitutions, I love
No
doing
way.
it. I do it all the time. So, anyways.
Yeah.
Don't send me emails, I'm kidding. No.
Y'all don't have any questions? Just David Black? Thank you, David. Thank you. I appreciate it.
The SGA spends student fees.
Correct.
When you don't spend all that money, where does it go?
So this is a question that Ty would be able to answer a lot better than me, but I kind of know the answer. So how would I phrase this? So in the spring, you don't necessarily get your allotment of funds day one of the quarter. So let's say, just for logic's sake, that the quarter starts on February 1st, you may not get that money right then. So the importance of that and the significance of that is, if we spent that dollar down to zip, 0 in the spring, so in May 31st, let's say we have $0. September 1st comes around, we leave an SGA with no money. We never want that to happen. We never want SGA to not have kind of like a cushion of money. Union Board operates the same way, and so does KLPI. Our funds actually won't let us get that low statewide. Money is a little hard to answer, to understand unless you actually see it on a daily basis. But that's kind of the gist of it. We want to have a comfortable amount in our account for the next SGAs to be successful. Same thing with every other student-funded organization on this campus that Wes oversees. Y'all speak to that?
How does the SGA plan to integrate RARA with the daily lives of students?
So, RARA is a very good resource that hasn't really got picked up off the ground yet because there hasn't been a lot of support. Or, how would I say this? Our university is run by some people that really just don't understand technology a lot. You know what I mean? And so they're not going to download an app to utilize a lot of the things that it could be utilized for. But I think that if we gear it more towards student activities and student organizations, which I think is what Wes Cabin, when I talk about Wes Cabin, the director of student activities, initially wanted it for, then we could definitely utilize it better and wider. Every student organization got registered on there, and that's where it kind of stopped. And that was kind of where we hoped it would take off. And so it's just kind of working with RAW student to student, which they do super well, but maybe enforcing like a task force that is just, like assigned to RAW, because it's easy for me to, where's Jacob? Internal affairs. It would be easy for me to be like, hey, Jacob, run RAW through SGA right now. But he has 70 other things to do, right? So if we have just a few students that their only job is to make sure that RAW is successful, then I think that would kind of help. And that group could be made up of student leaders. It could be made up of everyday students that don't necessarily participate in organizations on a high level. But I think RAW is really cool at. And whenever we figure out how to use it, it's going to be kicking.
Okay, so I am also a worker for student activities, and one cool thing that Ty and I both got to participate in this summer was meeting with the CEOs of RAW, and kind of talking to them about getting this app up and running. And for those of you who don't really know what that app is supposed to be for, it's supposed to just be a student engagement app. The whole point behind it is to have organizations registered through there, have all of those executive teams, phone numbers, and things like that on there. Pretty much just giving you all the resources to every organization on campus. In the far side of everything, they eventually wanted to make it to where you can advise through RAW, you can set up those times, you can set up meetings with your professors and that kind of thing. But same as every single piece of technology you ever try to integrate into anything ever, it takes a little bit of time for it to build up the momentum. And so that's something who everybody here and everyone on the live stream, you can kind of take the time today to maybe go look through the app and see, just kind of make yourself a little bit more familiar with it. Because it really is a great resource that we're going to get to work with eventually. It's just right now it's still kind of in the beginning stages of development.
Correct me if I'm wrong, SGA did not approve RAW, that was approved by someone else. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Correct.
Sorry, I thought that was an understood thing. Yes, that was by the Student Affairs Office.
Yeah, so they approved it, SGA didn't like make the decision to have RAW. Since I've been at Tech, we've had 4 different, some number of organizational communication channels developed. For our last 2 more years, that's great, but it may or may not, so that's fine. And, it's great. It's great. It's what it promises is great. Just like what a lot of things promise is great. We have it in 2 years. We have it in 2 years. So.
Yeah. And talking about the future, so I know everybody's like, I don't want to have another app for school, another dang login that I have to remember for tech, right? So one of the things that we just allocated the technology fee for, so I sit on the technology fee board. It's made up of students, Gage, and then I picked several members of SGA in each class to sit on that board, and we talked a little bit about this at the beginning of the year in SGA. We allocated those funds to Workday Student. So what Workday Student is it's going to be basically like this mega login, and that's where you're gonna boss is gonna go away.
Oh, and this was 24/7.
Yeah.
No more of that stupid.
So boss,
Happens some.
There will be star res, admissions, all the things, financial aid. You won't have to have your login for that anymore. Everything will be combined into Workday Student except for the new immunization portal, and which is really cool. Y'all should check it out. And Moodle will still be its own little operating biz. So that's going to be something that's really cool, and I think that that will pair very nicely with Rara. You also register for classes on there if you don't. That you didn't get that. So boss. But that'll be in about 2024. So. Which just sounds like a long time, but when you think about putting all those little cohorts together, that's going to take a minute, right? For sure.
So just an announcement before we move on, I've closed the poll for anonymous questions, there's still about 6 on the poll. I'm gonna try to get to them all. So if y'all have questions, there's 6 more questions.
Okay. What are some ways that we could increase participation within SGA?
That, hey, period. So that's a very good question. I think I'm in a unique position to answer that because I was secretary last year, and that is like the engagement cohort of the organization. And y'all don't give Elizabeth enough credit for how much work she does because she reaches out to you, texts you, emails you, calls you whenever you're not there, whenever SGA members aren't participating. And I think that being an organization of college students, it's very difficult to find 100 of them that are as passionate about the same thing as you want them to be. They're all passionate about different things. And that's what makes student government so unique and so cool, is that it's a platform to be passionate about whatever you want to be passionate about and advocate for whatever you want to advocate for. But it also comes to the fact when one person's advocating for what they want and what they're passionate about, and we force 99 people to try to be that passionate and to support that, it doesn't always happen the way we see it. And I think that's just the nature of a college organization. Some of the things that we have tried to do is we implemented, actually last year, Gage helped me implement the office hour letter. And basically what that is if you're becoming up on excused absences, you get a formal letter or a formal email saying that you are in danger of being eliminated. That's kind of the first time that anything like that had ever happened. People usually normally wouldn't get, be threatened to get kicked off SGA before. We've actually removed members from SGA this year, which I think is something that hasn't happened in the past. We do struggle with retention in our Senate ex officio seats. That's something that we're trying to work really hard on maintaining and kind of figuring out where that lacks. But I can stand up here and my exec can stand up here and bash SGA and harp on them to be participate. But we can't change the mindsets of 90 people. And I think that that doesn't go to say that SGA is made up of a bunch of lazy people. It's just sometimes they choose to be lazy. And all we can do is do what we can to make sure that we can operate however we can. Elizabeth?
I will say from the secretary point of view, we actually have a great turnout whenever it comes to members in SGA doing what's required of them. That's not something that we really struggle with at all. The part is that we do have members on SGA that don't exactly go above and beyond. Everybody who's sitting in this room right now, you are not the person I'm talking to about that, because clearly you're here. So thank you so much for that. But a lot of that I truly believe comes down to you approaching your peers about it. Because like Kiara said, we can sit up here and tell everyone, do more than you have to, over and over again. We say it every single week, and I know people.
Every single week, I say it every single week.
Every single week. And we can make funny graphics that say do your office hours or dodge not actually. We can make that every single week. But I truly do believe that you are the person who's concerned about others coming to your event. Go make friends with other people in SGA and make them see why you're passionate about that kind of thing. So that way they have, that way you're convincing your friends to go to stuff, not just other SGA members. And I do think that if people would be a lot more open activities and different events, if they see that, a lot of other people are going to it. And it's just, it, like Carol said, it's a mindset that we need to change over time, but it's not gonna happen overnight. So I do think that we've worked towards it, especially this quarter. We've had more involvement than we have in the past, but it's an ongoing thing.
So regarding this, talking about like this Senate aspect, it's very hard, because I can't fire Camden, and I can't fire Harrison as much as I want. I mean, I can't fire Harrison because they're elected, just like I'm elected. So it's hard to keep some senators motivated and on task. If I ask some members of the Senate what their role in SGA was, they may not know, right? And that's not to bash them, that's just the truth of the matter. So I can tell you though, the minute that our student Senate will 100% be committed and take SGA seriously and their role seriously is when their constituents also take it seriously, which is a huge thing. Because there is no one to come knocking on Harrison's door. Besides, I mean, I could come and say, Harrison, you do your job. At the end of the day, I can't fire him, I can't get rid of him. But the constituency out there, right, the Kansas people, constituents, can say, I'm tired of Harrison, right? So I would say if you were worried about a not involved SGA, specifically the Senate, really pay attention during those campaigns. When they're coming by and they're saying, hey, you know, I'm ready to come and serve you guys and stand up and work for you. Like, how have you worked in the past? Tell me about bills you've been on. Tell me about committees you've served on. What was your role in those committees? Things like that. So that we can put into place, like we do our best to build a staff, the Kiara's cabinet. We do a pretty good job at putting in people that we think are truly passionate. But I would say out there in the student body and out there, when you go to the polls, specifically come from the spring, you start to vote on your Senate. It's up to you guys to decide who's going to be out there serving you every Tuesday night and in between working on bills to serve you. So that would be my thing for as far as involvement in the student Senate.
I have to cough real quick.
I already asked you this before, you just kind of ignore it. But I think it's pretty clear that.
Ask a question in the Google form and you're here?
No, I'm saying it now.
Oh.
So, sorry. I think it's clear that tech has kind of a, like, pride issue, like people don't allow school spirit in general, on the whole. What do you think the root of that issue is, and what steps do you think we can take as an SGA to combat that?
So I think as a whole, I disagree. I think that we have a lot of school pride. Time Out for Tech is a different experience. If we get a prospective student to campus, that's when they want to come. On the other side of that, I think our school spirit, pride, and athletics is definitely on the lower side. We have one of the worst attendance rates in the conference. Whether that has to do with our player, that has to do with our school spirit. It's a toss-up, but I will say that there is no pride. I toured a lot of schools before I came to Tech. There was not a school that I felt the same way that I did at Tech, and I know not everybody falls in love with it the same way, but every single freshman that I had as an orientation student leader related to that in some way. They felt like it was different here, and I think that speaks a lot to the character of Tech, and that speaks to a lot to our student body and the makeup of it. But I do think there's a lot of things that we can do to increase engagement in athletics. And I think that begins and starts with the leadership in athletics. And like Elizabeth said earlier, things change like that. Doesn't happen overnight. It's a culture. And so that happens over time. And I think that with Dr. Eric Wood being in the position that he's in now, he's only been here a year, he's kind of changed the game for us. So what you're seeing now is as a freshman, Trevor, is completely different than what I saw as a freshman in athletics. And I think that it's really cool to be in my position, to be able to look back and see all the work that Sarah's department in athletics has done to kind of bridge the gap between athletics and to increase the engagement. It's not to where it needs to be by any means. It's not to where we want it, but we take steps every day, and they meet with the marketing team in athletics every day to kind of expand our reach to see what we can do better to make students want to come to games. But on the other side of that, I do not think that there's a school pride problem. I think that most people love to be a Bulldog, and if they don't, then that's our job, SGAs, to make sure that they feel safe, comfortable, and supported. And we can only do that through the things that we do and the initiatives that we set. And that's why we try to do new things all the time. We don't do one big thing at the beginning and let it carry through. We do new things every month, every week. And so I think that's what it takes, is it takes finding the sweet spot in every area for every group of students, if that makes sense.
Yeah, how about the dogs?
Yeah, HBTD. Happy birthday, touchdown.
Why doesn't SGA advertise fund matching more for other organizations?
So that's one of the things that Gage and Bronson are actually working on right now, is getting that matching funds on our website to publicize it more. The things that we do, short-term loans and matching funds, those are ways that we can assist students directly with our funding, are not publicized as much as they should be. And I take full responsibility for that with Ty. That's something that we wanted to do at the beginning, and it just kind of got lost in the run and go of fall quarter. But I do think that I know that the short-term loans is something that we talked about. I talked about with Jacob yesterday, something that I wanted to advertise in the first week in spring because a lot of students can benefit from that. Matching funds, we utilize a lot of those funds. But we can I do want to put it, publicize it on the website. What would the application?
Yeah, so the student senate is allowed $2,000 per quarter in their budget for matching fund requests. And right now, we have, who's on appropriations? We have, how many we got? We've approved 2 this quarter? We're about to approve 2 this quarter. We got 2 more organizations we can give $500 to. We're doing pretty good. We're giving out as much as we can. I think last quarter we gave it all away. This quarter we're about to give it half of it away next meeting. We are working on putting that on the website. And I would also say this, if you do know about matching funds and you are in an organization, share it with them, right? Don't hold it back and then wait for us to go and tell your org to come to us, right? We put it out there and we're trying to get on the website, make it a little more accessible. But it's a super easy process. I know I joked about it. I just didn't. I was kidding. But you can go on there, fill out a little application, and you go to a meeting. You don't have to go for last year you had to go for the full Senate, 40 senators, and talk about your organization, answer questions. Now you sit with what? A max 7 senators?
Yes.
Yeah, about 7 senators, answer a few questions. Super easy process, and we're waiting to give out that money because we know how important that $500 will be. So, yeah, we're working on spreading it more.
You had a question? My little department.
Hi, I just want to give you all the chance to say, like, something that you wish we knew about what you'll do on SGA that kind of behind the scenes that we don't really get to see. And also just, what's your favorite thing that you get to do as an SGA member?
Michael, go first. Oh, I have the mic. It's my director of campus activities right there. Max.
I think my favorite thing is just solving problems for people. That's my favorite thing to do on SGA. So it's like, whether it's Caroline reaches out, hey, we need some pallets next week for a recycling drive. And you can get on that and like, fix little problems for people. That's really great. I think that probably is just, I'm behind the scenes man. I'm not like always out in front doing something. That I am kind of behind the scenes. I pick up people's problems and fix them for them, whether it's something differentiated like this week. I was on the phone with Aaron Mark this morning while pulling the sled at the gym, talking about buying whipped cream for SGA week. Different things like that. That's my favorite thing to do. That's, I think, it's really behind the scenes stuff.
One thing for me is that I kind of get to be over all the internal everything with SGA. And so a lot of what comes out of that is also kind of fixing problems, but just sort of in a different way than Michael. Whenever Kiara is swamped with stuff, I'm the one that gets to be there for her and say, hey, whatever you need, I'm happy to have you involved to me. Small stuff like finding a tablecloth for Intro Wednesdays. Honestly, just kind of getting to be like a hand there for everybody and a listening ear. That's one of the big things that I love about it, is because I get to show my passion for this organization and protect and always have everyone's back.
What's something they don't know about your job?
One thing that most people probably don't know about my job is that you think just because, you have meetings on Tuesdays at 6 p.m. and a few events here and there throughout the quarter, that's where excuses and absences, that kind of thing stops. But it's absolutely not. And it's kind of every single day, check your email, check your text, check your group messages, because no matter how many times you say, hey, send me an email, people are going to send it somewhere else. And so every single day I'm checking up on that. And that's also one of those places where I sort of get to be a little bit of a discerner of things. And I kind of get to be there for people whenever a lot of others don't really know what they're going through. A lot of people open up to me and kind of get to tell me, like, hey, I'm gonna have to miss this because of X, Y, and Z. And that is something that's really special about this job, but it also can be a little bit tough sometimes, keeping up with it, and it is fun. But yeah.
Well, everybody knows what I do. You see me most often every meeting, sitting up in where she's at, with the gavel, leading the thing, right? I would say something about my job you don't know. Trying to think myself. A lot of times what I end up doing, and people are like, why does Gage do his SGA work in the actual office? Because 9 times out of 10, I'm yelling at Microsoft Word about why the bills don't look right, and why I can't get the columns for the signatures to look right, and why I can't get the Constitution to format right. That's why, because I'm in my room by myself going, This whole deal, it looks super simple, but oh my goodness. Anyway, we're at for a while. So there's the parts of my job that you don't see is working with senators, refining. Okay, you wrote this. Is this the best way to say this? Are you going to really pick them off and write this? Anyways, is working with senators, because my full-time job, serving as both a member of the legislative branch and the executive branch, is helping the gap between the legislative and Kiara. But I also serve as an advisor to Kiara, which she has all of us, but Kiara and I'll talk to Kiara about different issues we're facing and stuff like that later down the road, strategic planning, processes, because there's a lot that goes into making this machine run smoothly. Senate meetings look a whole lot different if I just rolled up with my gavel and went to town. Making the agendas, getting a website. I've been helping, I haven't been designing said website, but I've been telling Bronson how to design said website. He said, I can't do that, Gage. And then I'll say, well, we can do it this way. But anyways, those kind of things, making the streams look like they do, and telling Bronson again how to make the streams look like I want them, and that kind of thing. I do a lot of behind the scenes work for meetings that you don't see all the time. But my favorite part is running Senate meetings. I love it. And the reason I love it is not because I get to get up there and slam the gavel, because I really don't do it that often. Right, Harrison? I do love that. Is really making sure, one of the hardest parts is, say there's about 40 senators, we're on a heated discussion, and there's 16 hands up at one time. The hardest thing about my job, but also my favorite part of the job, is balancing who speaks when, and letting everybody have an opportunity to speak. Because in the past, sometimes it's been just the first person put their hand up, or the loudest speaker, or some of the people that speak all the time, the best speakers. And this has been good because I've been able to really make sure that everybody has a voice in Senate meetings, especially our ex officios, and empowering our student senators to participate fully as a senator. That's my favorite part.
I guess I'll go with my favorite part. I'm not done. So my favorite part of being SGA president. So before I was SGA president, I was a bartender, and if you've ever worked in food services, that's a pretty hard job to be in food services. It's like one of the worst. This is the hardest job I've ever had, hands down. This is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the coolest. And my favorite thing about it is that it's so hard because I get to do all the hard stuff for all 9,000 other people. And I think one of the coolest things about my job and my favorite part about my job is doing things like this, responding to the polls. So one of my favorite things every quarter is when we get negative responses on the poll, not because I don't like when people have bad things to say, but it's because we get to be better. It's because we get to learn, and it's because every time that I get to email somebody and be like, hey, do you want to meet with me? I know you said some bad things to say about SGA. Do you want to come to my office? It's a little scary, but we get to learn, and I get to be better, and I get to hear them out and kind of either take their suggestions and run with it, or redirect them and say, actually, this is how we do that, and this is how we've kind of learned from what you might be talking about, and this is the area that you're speaking about, and this is how we deal with that. And so one of the best things that I think that my favorite part of my job is getting to show people, to make students feel comfortable and feel like they're cared about, even though, and empowering them to have a voice. That's the coolest part of my job, and I'll forever be grateful and never feel worthy to do that. But some things y'all don't know about my job. There's probably a lot y'all don't know about my job. I think I was trying to think about this. The one thing that I would tell people about my job, the side that you guys really don't get to see is just like the footwork that has to be done on the students' behalf in administration and how important the person that sits in the seat is. Not to say that I'm like cool or whatever, but because I'm not cool at all. But there's just so much work that needs to be done, and our administration realizes that. And what you guys don't know about my job, and what I try to stress to our SGA members all the time, is that whenever people ask me what the students think, like that's what they believe. So all 8 to 12,000 of you, whatever the person that sits in my seat says is what the administration believes. And so whenever you vote, if you're a freshman, if you're a senior, whenever you vote for SGA president, remember that. Remember that whoever sits in this seat, whoever talks to administration, that's what they're going to believe. They're not going to question it, because students know students best. And there's only one person that sits in those meetings that you take. So if that's the part about my job that you guys don't know about, that's what I would say to remember, because like I said, we don't get to be president for 4 years like the United States. We don't get to be a dean for 30 years like Mr. Speed. It's just 1 year. And so there's a lot of turnover. And so you have to make sure that the right person's in the spot every time. So, and then again, one other thing that I would say is that I could not do any of my job, any part, without these 5 people that 2 of them aren't here, but I could not do anything without them. They keep the org running. I'm not gonna lie. Michael Herchak carries the cabinet on his back. Elizabeth tells me where to go what time. Gage, the senators, I really don't know a whole lot of what y'all do until, you know what I mean? Until it gets on the agenda, which is so good, because that means that I get to do big initiatives, and I get to do a lot of things like that. And Ty, we would not be able to do anything without him. So, and Payson's kind of the guy that I give big things to that don't necessarily have to do with the cabinet, because I need Michael to be Michael, you know? So I have a lot of respect for these people, and that you guys really have no idea what they do on a daily basis. But if you ever want to find out, elections are coming up. Next meeting, we're going to talk about all of our exec positions. So y'all come to that for sure.
So I'm not an SGA, but I do frequent the back desk. I would like to say, I remember when Kiara ran for SGA president, her slogan was, "Let's get the ball rolling." I would like to know how everyone plans to keep the ball rolling, and how to implement a smooth, effective transition. And also, like, for things that aren't set in stone yet, like replenish, diversity, equity, inclusion, and funding for underrepresented boards, how are you gonna actually transition that?
So I think one of the things that I said in our debate in this room last year was that the reason that SGA never changes is because every SGA president sits behind the desk and does what they're passionate about. And in May, they finish that, and the next SGA president starts. Nothing ever carries through. There's no work that ever needs to be done. And so SGA starts from square one or in the past, I feel like SGA started from square one every time. I wish I had more time. I tell Wes that all the time. I wish I had more time to get everything finalized. But I think that sense of being uncomfortable is exactly what we needed, because that means that the next SGA will build. They won't start from ground one. They'll build on top of what we already started. And I think that gives the next SGA president the opportunity, and the next SGA the opportunity to be better. And that's what my whole job is to make sure that the next SGA has work to do. And so, no, it's not set in stone, but it's about giving them the resources to be able to do that. And it's about finalizing things in the sense that there's still going to be some loose ends that need to be tied, but teaching them how to tie it and not leaving them to the wind to do it, but also not leaving them with no strings to tie, if that makes sense.
I would say too, I mean, the Senate has made unbelievable progress. Just from my position last year as Supreme Court Justice, sitting on the back row, running up to the front in sheer panic as the Senate was completely confused on what they were doing. And that's no reflection on anyone in previous roles. That was just how things work. And now we've seen the result of structure, of adding professionalism, of going back to the rules and adhering to them, because now we have structured committees, we have structured leadership, we have better legislation as a result of it, because it goes through several channels before it arises to the floor. But to answer the question how that's going to keep onward, I don't know. I can't force the next vice president to do all the things that I'm doing. And I, just like Kiara can't force the next president to continue on what she's doing. They're going to come in with different ideas and different ways to approach things.
Right.
But I would say, to keep the same level of seriousness that we all share for our positions, it's not up to us. It's got to be up to the student body, because it's extremely easy to get on a poll and to say we're not doing our jobs, but then not turn out and take elections seriously. So I would say, going back to what I said earlier, if the student body also wants for the progress we've made to continue, really pay attention and take elections seriously when they come around. If student government is to be taken seriously, if y'all want it to be a serious organization, then the student body who votes it in has to take it serious as well. So I would say that as far as how we want to continue, because whoever gets in the spot, we're going to have full faith in the constituency that that's who's going to do it. And here you go, here's the keys to the kingdom. Go make it what you need to make it. So I would say just turn out your elections and vote for the person you think is best for you. Right, Tom? Do you agree?
I agree.
Good.
All right, thank y'all for being here. We got 4 more questions on the anonymous form. So unless y'all have any more questions, we're gonna try to get through these 4 as quick as possible.
And I'll answer these and come to you all as I need.
What is one way the small organizations and clubs can get involved with SGA?
I think there's lots of ways that they can get involved with SGA. Our community service department has been trying to partner with smaller organizations since the beginning of the year. They're having a hard time finding ways to contact those organizations because our rosters haven't been updated because we haven't had a student org little app thing. And so that's been one of the most difficult things for them. They always want to, our public relations department shares all, if not any of the student activities posts, and the smaller organizations are included in that, so are the bigger ones. I think one of the best ways that I've seen organizations this year partner with SGA is they partnered with our diversity, equity, and inclusion department, and we've used some of their budget to compound their event, but also if we have an SGA and blank event, sometimes more people are more apt to come because those who are attracted to the minority organization and those who are attracted to our organization, we kind of attract both crowds. And so I think that that's one of the best ways that they can is partnering with us. We can't necessarily support everybody's events, but we can try to support as many as we can.
What is David's position? Why did you guys make a position for him? Actually, all of the
So everybody that lost the presidency is on SGA, if y'all didn't notice. So Michael and Payson both applied for, and multiple other people, both applied for the role of chief of staff, and they both were going to do that in 2 completely different ways. And it was either Michael was the better option for what the chief of staff role actually is to oversee the cabinet, because he was a director for 2 years and he was involved in that department when he was a freshman as well. But Payson had so much experience in SGA that it would have been stupid for us to not include him in SGA at all. But he didn't necessarily have experience in any of the areas that we had left. And I told my exec team, and Gage and Elizabeth can speak to this, I told them we're not shoving anyone anywhere at all. If they don't fit, they don't fit. If they've been on SGA, they haven't been on SGA. But I thought, and we thought as an exec team, that creating a new position that isn't the same as chief of staff, but it could cater to all of the needs of our exec team, so that Michael could help oversee the cabinet more so than help assist our exec, then we would be doing the students and SGA an injustice if we didn't use both of their experiences in a unique way. And so that's why we did it. We didn't do it because he lost the presidency. I think that is a very difficult question to answer in my position, because first of all, to have two of the people that lost the presidency directly under me, don't you think that I would have been a little scared to do that, because isn't that the position that they originally wanted? So there could have been some responsibility overlap, if that makes sense. But we did it because it was best for SGA. It wasn't best for me, it wasn't best for my exec team. It was best for what was best for SGA. It was what was best for the students. And that's every decision that we make. And yeah. Next one's hard too. Good. Okay.
I get that people are busy, and every student has their own work to do. However, as a student leader, why is it that only 2 out of 5 events are mandatory? Why not set it to where every event is mandatory? It beats the purpose of being student leaders and taking initiative.
I absolutely disagree. As a student leader, I absolutely disagree. College students and student leaders in specific are made spectacles more than any other student on college campuses, and it's absolutely ridiculous that they're held to a different standard in their time management than any other student, because they have just the same amount of workforce load, they have the same amount of workload, some of them have the same jobs. Should they be held to a different standard in the way that they act and the things that they say and the way that they interact with other people? Absolutely, because that's just part of being a leader. But when you just focus on a student leader as a leader, then you miss the student part of it, and you don't ever consider the fact that they also are in college and they also have the same mindset that an 18 to 22-year-old are a part of. Just because they stepped up, like we talked about earlier, and tried something new doesn't make them any better, but it also doesn't make them any less. They're held to a different standard in the fact that they are involved in something and they represent certain things, but they shouldn't be held to another standard in the fact that they should be able to allocate every single ounce of their time to something that they tried to do. And it's up to Elizabeth's discretion.
Yes. So
Constitutionally,
that's what I
thank you.
was about to say, that, what people are required to attend and not attend is completely up to my discretion. And we chose 2 out of the 5 events because we do understand that other people are involved in other organizations. For example, right now, Union Board is having their meeting, or they're probably out by now. But they had their Union Board meeting starting at 6 o'clock, and that's whenever we were asking people to get here. So it would not exactly be fair of us to ask members of SGA who are not directly in campus activities to attend an event like this, while they are directly a member of Union Board and that weekly meeting. The same would go if one of our SGA members had an event for, we'll say BSU, and we had our weekly meeting. They know that this weekly meeting is it's Tuesdays at 6 every single week. That has not changed for years and won't change for years, more than likely. And so it would be one of those things that I would expect them to be at SGA meeting over that event, because that is what they signed up for, that's what they were appointed for, that's what they were elected for. So I think that it's kind of a double-edged sword there, but we've strongly encouraged all of our members to do more than they have to and to attend more events than just 2. And we've had great turnout with that. We've had so many senators and so many cabinet members coming to plenty of the events that they were not required to attend, but just because they wanted to support the other members of SGA. And so I want to applaud our SGA for that, because that's awesome. I'm
Yeah.
very proud of everybody for that.
And also, I would just like to add, I think that one of the things that people can combat that with is that I attend every event, and I'm a student leader, and I'm a busy student leader. I had to take a back seat in every organization I'm involved in. I had to quit my job. This is my only job. This is my job. So that's why I attend every event. And I had to take, like I said, a back seat in every organization that I'm involved in, ever. And also quit my job. We don't ask every student leader to take a back seat in all their organizations and quit their job. And that'd be ridiculous if we did. So, yeah. Maxie? Last one.
Why aren't we exec wearing masks right
That's one.
Well, because we're sitting here talking and speaking. Majority of you may not be able to understand us clearly with our masks on right now. And the official COVID policy is for anyone at the podium, so the reason PR is not to use the podium. Us, it's because we're sitting here speaking instead of doing this. And when I have this off and I start turning this way, I can just spread it to her anyways. So yeah, we'll try better next time to wear more sitting here talking for the entire period. It's different SGA meetings though, because when they're not sitting there talking for an hour, hour and a half at a time, they have them on. But since I'm sitting here talking to you tonight, and we're well outside of 6 feet, I think we'll be okay.
That was the last one to end on. That's sad.
Well, thanks again for everyone coming. Thank y'all for your questions.
Let's give a big round of applause to our Department of Campus Activities for SGA. Our Campus Activities Department has worked really hard all quarter to plan this. They had this whole week planned before Christmas. And, that's a really tough ask for some departments, and that department actually absolutely killed it. And our event tomorrow is going to be postponed because of the inclement weather and classes being canceled. We want y'all to be able to pie your SGA members as you wish without risking your life on some ice. So, Max, thank you for all your hard work. Kylie, Adele, everybody else where y'all are at. Annalise, and Max, take over. Thank y'all for coming. Really appreciate it. Thank y'all for tuning in to the live stream.
See everybody Saturday at the basketball game for the raffle.
Yeah.